What's up, motorcaders? This is TJ. Today I'm going to analyze another video for you. Instead of video analysis, I'm probably going to start calling this segment Motorcade Forensics, because I'm really dissecting a particular moment in time of a procession. And so for today's procession, we're going to be talking about one where we have a limo, a funeral lead car driver. They're driving the hearse. They're a little anxious to get to where they're going. They've been told multiple times to go slow and to slow down. And whenever we turn our back, whenever the escorts turn our back, they continue to just pick up the pace. They're actually running late to get to where they need to go. The service went long, but when it's all said and done, our job is to get them there safely. And in order to do that, we need our lead car drivers to follow our instructions. A couple of the points I'm going to make here real quick before we get started is just a couple of rules of thumb that we have for our lead car drivers. Number one is to follow our instructions at all times. Secondly, and the point of this particular video is that when a lead car gets to an intersection, the protocol is that they are not to proceed through the intersection until three things have happened. First, an escort is present in the intersection. Secondly, the escort has completely secured the intersection to make it safe. And lastly, third, the escort has waved the lead car through. All of those three things have to happen before the lead car can proceed through the intersection. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and proceed and kind of watch this video. So we're on a road right now. The speed limit on this road is 50, I believe. This road is called Mountain Creek. We're heading to the Dallas National Cemetery. I'm heading north on Mountain Creek. So I'm going to go ahead and push play. And I'm the first bike. We just left another intersection before this. It's probably about half a mile behind me. And so I'll be the first bike getting to the front of this intersection at this point. You can see there's a grass median in the middle. Then up over this hill, kind of at the top here, there's going to be a light. And at that light is where I'm expecting our lead car to stop and wait for me if he's gotten there before me. So we're moving. Another thing I want you to notice is that look at how large this gap is. So when you're riding with your procession, typically your cars are typically 1 to 2 lengths apart, car lengths apart, if you're going 30 to 35 miles an hour. This gap right here is probably a 5 to 6 car gap at least 6 car gap. And you look up here, there's even a bigger gap up here. This is probably a 8 to 10 car gap here. So as those gaps are getting bigger, those gaps are telling me as an escort, as I'm coming up, that gap it's very telling. That's telling me that that lead car is speeding up. If these gaps are getting bigger and bigger from the procession behind it, that's telling me that lead car is speeding up faster and faster in front of me. So the procession is already telling on the lead car. I don't even have to look at him and know if he's speeding up. I can tell just by looking at the procession and how they're behaving. So let's move forward. So I'm trying to catch up to a limo driver that's speeding, hearse driver that's speeding. Now, as I get right here, a couple of things I notice. One is my procession is now starting to stack up more. They're stacked up here, but there's starting to have a gap here. So what that tells me, again, Motorcade Forensics, is that he slowed down as he came up over this hill, which kind of caused the ripple effect of the car slowing down. But as the gaps up here are spreading out, he's speeding up again. So those are the kind of things that we need to be aware of as escorts, is pay attention to your procession. It will tell you a lot. Next, you can't see it, but the light is red right here. It is completely red. So I'm a little confused as I came over this hill as to why he's accelerating towards a light that's red. Let's speed up. So he is clearly running this red light without an escort. He's in the middle, he's halfway across the intersection. The cross traffic, that light has been red at least for 10 seconds. So the cross traffic has the right of way. And according to the Dallas City ordinances, a procession by itself does not have the right of way. A procession can only have the right of way if an escort is with it. So this is an illegal maneuver right here. He is running a red light illegally, and anybody who's coming across here, and apparently he looked both ways and there wasn't a lot of traffic coming through, so he saw us open and went ahead and went across, which of course he shouldn't have done. But that's what I just wanted to paint the picture. That's what I'm walking into. That's as I came over this hill and saw him in the intersection, I got instantly frustrated because he was in a rush to get to the cemetery, which is probably about a half mile up around this bend over here. On the other side of this is DBU, the parking lot for DBU, then the cemetery is on the other side of that. So he's trying to get to the cemetery. He needs to be there by 2:15, and at this time where we're pulling in this intersection, it is probably right at about 2:18, 2:20. So he's already late. Breaking the law here and cutting through here is not going to save them hardly any time. Not if the cemetery is right around the corner. Secondly, I'm even in thinking about it now, I think I might have seen what happened is that let me back up just a second. The reason that it kind of okay, let me back up to so as I'm coming over the hill, remember I said that I saw these cars starting to stack up again, which tells me he put on his brakes at some point, which is why they're stacking up here. Once he sees me in his rear view mirror here, once he sees me coming up in the rear view mirror, my guess is that he's just taking the liberty to say that, hey, I can see my escort, so we're technically have the right of way through this intersection. And that is just because you can see me doesn't mean that you're invincible and then you have the right of way through a red light. That is 100% not the case. He should have been, as I came over this hill, what I expected to see was him stopped at that intersection waiting on me to, again, those three things: pull into the intersection, securely shut it down, and lastly, wave him through. If he doesn't remember any of those rules, the only thing he needs to know is wait until I wave him through. And remember, my number one thing I said was follow instructions, follow our direction at all times. So I was instantly upset when I came over this hill and he was already halfway through the intersection. So at this point, you saw my head go to the left. Now I'm trying to play defense in that I'm accelerating as fast as I can here. I look to the left. There was just one car coming who was starting to slow down. I'm worried about the right. The car is coming from the right because there's like a hill over here on the right, and it's kind of a blind turn. So as you can see here, there's kind of a grassy knoll. There's a bunch of bushes here. So any cars that are on this, this is what, westbound, Keast, they can't see anything until cars are already out here about to go into the intersection. So I'm really, really nervous as I'm approaching this intersection as to what catastrophe could possibly be about to happen. So now I look to the left, had that car was slowing down over there. Now I'm looking to the right. There's nobody immediately here. I know that they have the cross traffic has the green. They have the right of way. So I'm squarely going to be looking towards the east direction here, looking for any cars, and I'm going to jump right smack dab in their line of sight to hopefully thwart off any impending danger. And so there's my look to the right. There's, again, they clearly have the green. You can kind of see that up here on the right. And there's, look, again, remember that gap, your gaps in your procession? Gaps in your procession are opportunities for cross traffic to go through your procession. And not intentionally. they just, again, if you're one of these two cars rolling up to a green light and you see a car, this black car goes through, they might have just thought, oh, he just ran the red light, we're clear to go through. They don't see the other cars behind here. So it's pertinent that I get in their line of sight to slow them down. And what I'm doing at this point, I'm staring down that truck and I'm gauging whether he's going to have enough distance to stop. And I'm prepared to do one or two things. One is to hook a hard right, and to get in front of my procession to stop them. Or two, if either of these cars are coming through and not going to be able to stop, I'm looking out for my safety first, and I'm going to accelerate through the intersection so that I don't get hit. So I get in front of him, I gauge that he was slowing down. My procession is just wailing through, and then processions are like little ducklings. Whatever that lead car does, every car behind them is going to do it because they just trust. They assume that it's safe. They assume that if the first car did it, then the second car did it, and the third car did it, and the fourth car did it. Well, shoot, it must be safe for me. And if that big truck did it, well, shoot, it must be safe for me. So they're just all going to do what the car in front of them does. That's why that lead car, it's so important to control that lead car. If you can get him under control, the rest of your procession will fall in place. It doesn't matter if it's a 10-car procession or a 100-car procession like this one was. So here we are in an intersection that had no control. I had to get into it late. Fortunately for us, there was no traffic that was coming. Fortunately for us, this 18-wheeler had not encroached upon the intersection too much. We had a little Sprinter van here that was slowing down. So finally got here in time, and our procession is going through. Again, this is my partner. We were both trying to catch up from the previous intersection. Look at all these gaps. So again, these gaps are way too big. Look at all these gaps that he was flying. So I didn't mention it earlier. I was having to go 85 just to catch up to get to this intersection. Your procession speed should be 10 to 15 miles an hour under a speed limit. Period. That's the rule of thumb. If we're on a highway and the speed limit is 65, I'm taking my procession 50. If we're on a city and the speed limit is 40, we're going 30. We're going 25 or 30. That's just my rule of thumb to keep us going at a safe speed. This procession, we're on a 50-mile-an-hour road. He was going at least 50 or 60 because it took me going 80 to catch up to him. So, finally got this intersection under control, and the lead car has no idea what kind of chaos has happened behind him or what type of emergencies has been averted, because as usual we do the best we can to keep processions safe. All right, hope you got something out of this, motorcaders. Be sure to stay safe out there.